It's July 15th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour, starting with the shooting at the Donald Trump rally. The FBI says the 20-year-old shooter acted alone in the assassination attempt on Trump, while President Joe Biden has ordered an independent security review on how the attack could have happened. Trump is on his way to Milwaukee for the Republican National Convention. Marking the first North Korean Defectors Day over the weekend, President Yoon vowed to enhance support for North Korean defectors so that they are not forcefully repatriated and instead find their footing south of the border. The torch relay ahead of the Paris Olympics reached the French capital on Sunday as the country also celebrated military victories of the past at its Bastille Day parade. BTS member Jin carried the flame as the first torchbearer in the Louvre Museum section of the route. An investigation is underway in the U.S. into the 20-year-old gunman who attempted to assassinate Donald Trump over the weekend. The former president was injured in the shooting, but said ahead of the Republican National Convention, his presidential campaigning would continue as scheduled. Our Shin Ha-young has the latest.
The U.S. Secret Service is investigating the circumstances surrounding an assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump during a rally in Pennsylvania on Saturday local time. Authorities identified the gunman who attacked Trump as Thomas Matthew Crooks, a 20-year-old man from Pittsburgh. CNN reported that Crooks fired at Trump from a building rooftop outside the rally security perimeter before he was killed by the Secret Service. The FBI says he acted alone using an AR-style rifle believed to have been bought by his father, and there are currently no public safety concerns. According to the New York Times, Crooks came from a typical middle-class background with mixed political views. He was registered as a Republican, while his mother was a Democrat and his father a Libertarian. President Joe Biden addressed the attempted assassination on Sunday, calling for the nation to come together as one and announcing an independent security review to investigate how the attack occurred.
I've directed an independent review of the national security at yesterday's rally to assess exactly what happened, and we'll share the results of that independent review with the American people as well.
Trump's aide said he was in great spirits and doing well after the shooting, which resulted in an injury in his right ear. According to the Butler County District Attorney, one spectator at the rally died in the shooting while another is in a serious condition. Trump took to social media some 13 hours after the shooting to thank those who prayed for him and urged Americans to stand united and show their true character as Americans. Trump also stated he would stick to his schedule despite the shooting. He arrived in Milwaukee on Sunday for the Republican National Convention, where he is set to be named the party's presidential nominee later this week. Shin Ha-young, Arirang News.
And South Korea has condemned the act of political violence against former U.S. President Donald Trump at his election rally in Pennsylvania. President Yoon on Sunday posted on X that he is, quote, appalled by the hideous act of political violence, adding that he wishes Trump a speedy recovery. Yoon spokesperson Kim Soo-kyung later released a statement saying that Seoul strongly condemns political violence in any form. She said South Koreans will stand in solidarity with Americans and offer comfort to those who have been alarmed by the shooting incident. Other world leaders, including Britain's new Prime Minister Keir Starmer, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi also sent regard to the former U.S. president and criticized the act of violence. Back in January, South Korea passed a law to make July 14th North Korean Defectors Day. This was to help those who fled the North settle in South Korea and to raise awareness of the human rights violations going on the other side of the border. Now, it was celebrated for the first time on Sunday. Our Kim Do-yeon reports.
Tears and emotions filled the room as songs and messages celebrated the courage of North Korean defectors and their journey escaping North Korea, as well as giving encouragement to overcome their struggles and adapt to a new life in South Korea. Sunday was the first ever North Korean Defectors Day, with the main celebration at the former presidential Blue House. President Yoon, who signed the law to designate July 14th as a day celebrating defectors, promised to take care of those who came seeking freedom as he hosted around 200 North Korean defectors.
우리 정부는 자유를 향한 여러분의 발걸음이 헛되지 않도록 하겠습니다. 대한민국을 찾는 북한 동포를 어떠한 일이 있더라도 단 한 분도 돌려보내지 않을 것입니다.
He also condemned North Korea's human rights violations, referring to the first of its kind government publication, the report on North Korean human rights from last year, and said resolving this issue will be the foundation of the unification. And taking care of the defectors is the beginning, with around 34,000 North Korean defectors currently in South Korea.
탈북민 여러분을 포용하는 것이 북한 인권을 개선하는 첫 걸음이 될 것입니다. 저는 오늘 대한민국이 여러분께 희망의 보금자리가 될 수 있도록 정착, 역량, 화합의 세 가지 약속을 드리고자 합니다.
In terms of settlement, President Yoon vowed to improve the settlement support fund and help defectors with supported savings accounts. For capability, the government will provide them with more employment opportunities with benefits for companies that hire defectors. And finally, harmony. The government is looking to tackle discrimination while offering mentoring programs with already arrived defectors helping newcomers. Yoon also re-emphasized that as North Korea are South Korean citizens, protecting them is essential for achieving true unification. In the meantime, people outside of South Korea also joined in with messages of encouragement.
We have had the privilege of meeting a few North Korean defectors and
some of the strongest people in the world, strongest and most courageous people in the world. And we're really proud of you and just want to encourage you to follow your dreams.
In the meantime, President Yoon also met with the Little League Baseball team of young North Korean defectors, the Challengers, to send them off for a trip to the U.S. President Yoon congratulated them on their journey to the birthplace of baseball, the United States, as future national team players of a free and unified Korea. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
But long before this official recognition, there are some North Korean defectors who've worked hard to have their stories heard. Our cultural correspondent Song Yu-jin tells us more.
The play 10th Spring follows 10 years of Hyun Soo-jung's life in South Korea after defecting from North Korea. Adjusting to a new home isn't easy. But with determination, Soo-jung graduates from university and lands a stable job. The play's director, Oh Jin-ha, is a North Korean defector himself, escaping the regime more than 20 years ago.
I feel that when people hear about North Korean defectors, they think, oh, how unfortunate for them. It's always their story. Through this play, I wanted to change that narrative.
10th Spring is a collaboration between a North Korean director and South Korean actors.
We had about 3 weeks to discuss and share real stories about North Korea before our table reading. This helped me understand the struggles, criticism, and misunderstandings North Korean defectors face. I learned a lot more about their lives than just historical facts.
Unfortunately, not all North Korean artists and performers have the opportunity to pursue their careers like director Oh has.
Many North Korean artists stopped their creative activities after coming to the South due to economic challenges. We tried to serve North Korean artists 2 years ago, but it was difficult because not many were continuing their careers here.
This highlights the urgent need for government-led support.
We need to create an environment where these artists can freely pursue their artistic dreams. We'll reach out to more North Korean defectors who are artists to help them connect with others in their field and understand the support they need.
This will give these artists more opportunities to pursue their passions and share their talents. The 10th Spring will be performed 2 more times this year at the Uniculture Center in Seoul's Gangseok District on September 21st and December 7th. Song Yu-jin, Arirang News.
President Yoon last Friday wrapped up his week with visits to Hawaii and then Washington, D.C. to attend the annual NATO Summit for the third consecutive year. Although South Korea is an invited partner country, there was a significant interest in its role in global security amid growing concerns over the recent treaty between North Korea and Russia forging economic and military ties. We have our correspondent Oh Soo-young, who was there to cover the week-long summitry. Welcome back, Soo-young.
Always good to come back here, Tammy.
So the summit, the NATO summit, was again all about Russia and North Korea and their deepening military ties. Let's start with that.
Right, sure. So President Yoon had a very clear message that Russia and North Korea's military collaboration poses a threat to the broader international community, not just the Korean Peninsula and the Indo-Pacific. So North Korea's ammunition helps sustain Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and any economic or military aid from the Kremlin to the Kim Jong-un regime would increase its nuclear and missile threat in the Indo-Pacific. Now, this resonated with NATO leaders as they acknowledged the connection between Indo-Pacific and Euro-Atlantic security. That's why there was a significant spotlight on NATO's Indo-Pacific 4 partners invited to the summit for the third straight year. This included South Korea, Japan, Australia and New Zealand. And if you remember, I covered the summit last year as well and saw the gathering of these 4 leaders myself. But this year, their presence was not just a sideline event. The Indo-Pacific countries were very much at the centre of the conversation in addressing the war in Ukraine and the threat of authoritarian players like Russia, North Korea, China and Iran aligning ever more strongly against the free world.
Well, in that sense, President Yoon made a pretty clear stance for the free world, and his pledges really stood out, right?
Yes, it really did. And even before his arrival in Washington, D.C., he, of course, stopped over in Hawaii, where he visited the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command. And that was noted with great interest by global media as he reaffirms Ho's commitment to regional and global peace as well as stability, and sent a really strong message of strength and force against the Russia-North Korea axis. In D.C., he and President Biden also welcomed the guidelines adopted in the Bilateral Nuclear Consultative Group, which was formed last year to enhance South Korea's involvement in the United States nuclear planning and operations, with leader-level consultations as well. And at the NATO summit itself, President Yoon gained solidarity from the 32-member bloc, as well as Indo-Pacific countries, which both condemned the Russia-North Korea treaty in their joint statements. And in his speech to the NATO allies and partners, Yoon said that it's because of enablers like North Korea supplying Moscow that the war in Ukraine has stretched on. He then pledged to double South Korea's contribution towards a trust fund for Ukraine that provides non-lethal military supplies. Of course, President Yoon has said that Seoul will consider arming Ukraine, but that really does depend on the level of Moscow and Pyongyang's military cooperation.
So we may want him to send weapons directly to Ukraine, but that would be against South Korean law. They would have to change the law first. And aside from maybe the US and others, I see few countries doing as much as South Korea to replenish European armaments that are supplying Ukraine. And certainly he's saying all the right things and contributing humanitarian relief and arms to the countries helping Ukraine.
President Yoon also met with NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, and they welcomed the agreements that South Korea made with the 32-member alliance. First of which was sharing South Korea's information on North Korea's weapons, as well as NATO's analysis of those weapons found in Ukraine. Now, that would help them build a clearer picture of how to respond to the Russia-North Korea collaboration, as well as draw up more elaborate measures. Also, mutually recognizing airworthiness certificates, that means that NATO is going to accept South Korea's domestically certified aircraft. This would, of course, increase interoperability between the two sides, as well as market opportunities.
On top of that, Yoon's office said it will increase cooperation with NATO countries economically. Tell us more about that.
Right, so President Yoon held more than 10 sideline bilaterals during the NATO event. And as South Korea has this diverse portfolio of advanced industries and technologies that link to both national and economic security, it offers many areas of partnership, from co-developing defence technology to building infrastructure with Finland, nuclear energy plants with the Czech Republic, space cooperation with Sweden, and as you can see, the list really goes on.
South Korea is still structured around that imminent threat from North Korea, which they live with every day. only 26, 27 miles away from Seoul. So I think South Korea brings an awareness and a battle readiness that maybe other countries don't have, plus its superior technology. I think it's the 10th largest arms exporter in the world and is really helpful in backfilling some of the European armaments that have been shipped to Ukraine. I know it's against South Korean law to send weapons directly into a conflict zone, but as we've seen in the case of its exports to Poland, it can help backfill those countries which are supplying Ukraine. So whether it's technology, battle readiness, experience fighting a communist neighbor, and or its superior arms industry, South Korea has a lot to offer NATO.
Well, it seems that Seoul and Brussels' relationship will become closer and closer across, a wide range of common interests.
I would definitely say so. And South Korea being part of the IP4 grouping, it's already working with NATO on its flagship projects in supporting Ukraine as cyber defense, countering disinformation, as well as artificial technology. And going forward, President Yoon also suggested that they strengthen their cooperation and work more broadly across fields like the global south, maritime security, cyber defense, non-proliferation, and so on. So I think there's already a lot going on, but there's much more to be done.
Definitely. All right, Seong, thank you as always for your report and welcome back again.
Thanks for having me, Tammy.
The third plenary session of the 20th Central Committee of the Chinese Communist Party kicks off on Monday for 4 days behind closed doors in Beijing. And what is one of the Chinese Communist Party's most important political meetings? It will be presided over by President Xi Jinping and is expected to focus on deepening economic reforms, especially as the country is struggling to fully recover after COVID. The government is also expected to discuss its intention to support and foster high-tech industries and its AI development policy. In addition, in a bid to revitalize the real estate market, financial support and tax reform may be discussed. Now, the third plenum is the third of 7 plenary sessions held during the party's 5-year term. Training hospitals across South Korea are scheduled to confirm whether or not trainee doctors will return to work, with outstanding resignation letters to be processed starting today. Lee Seung-ja has more.
Training hospitals across the country will finally submit and process resignation letters written by trainee doctors on Monday. However, before that, training hospitals sent text messages to trainee doctors requesting a final decision by noon the same day. If a resignation is confirmed or if there is no response, the hospital will process the letters and finalize the number of junior doctors not returning for work. The trainee doctors who refused to return since taking part in a massive walkout nearly 5 months ago are saying that the medical school admissions quota hike issue has not been fundamentally resolved. Despite this, the government is looking to speed up the process in order to confirm the number of trainee doctors to be recruited for the second half of the year. Despite the deadline issued by the government, trainee doctors do not believe many of their colleagues will return. According to the government, as of last Thursday, only 69 out of a total of 10,506 trainee doctors in all 211 training hospitals who submitted resignation letters had their resignation accepted. Also, the percentage of trainee doctors working at hospitals stood at 8%. A so-called blacklist of trainee doctors and medical students who have returned to work or classes was revealed online, further pressuring trainee doctors and medical students to continue their collective action despite Monday's deadline. The government said it will investigate the matter as it seeks to avoid a further vacuum within the country's medical system. Lee Seung-ja, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Kim Xiang, and this is The World Now. With just over 10 days left until the Paris Olympic Games, the Olympic torch relay arrived in the French capital on Sunday after some 2 months of traveling through France and its overseas territories. Former French international footballer and current coach of the French Olympic squad, Thierry Henry, kicked off the relay for the first leg on the famed Champs-Élysées Avenue. The flame also passed landmarks such as Arc de Triomphe, the Grand Palais, the Petit Palais, the Jardin de Luxembourg, and finally the Louvre. And it was in that last leg of the relay that South Korea got in on the act, with Jin from K-pop group BTS becoming the first torchbearer on the Louvre Museum section, where he was greeted by screaming fans. The first day of the relay through Paris coincided with Bastille Day, France's national day, adding to the festivities in the city, where tourists and locals alike celebrated the Olympic spirit. The 2024 Paris Olympics run from July 26th to August 11th, while the Paralympic Games will follow from August 28th to September 8th. In football, Spain scored a late goal to beat England in the final of the UEFA European Championship. The 2-1 victory in Berlin on Sunday evening local time gave Spain its 4th European crown. Substitute Mikel Oyarzabal scored the winning goal with 86 minutes on the clock. After a goalless first half, Spain's rising star, 17-year-old Lamine Yamal, delivered an assist for fellow winger Nico Williams to score the first goal of the game on 47 minutes. England's Cole Palmer equalised in the 73rd minute before Spain's late winner. Spain have dominated this year's Euros in Germany, winning all of the 7 games they played in the tournament. The Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza said that 141 Palestinians have been killed and some 400 injured in Israeli airstrikes over the weekend. One of those airstrikes on Saturday reportedly killed 90 people in the designated safe zone of Al-Masawi, a large refugee camp west of Khan Yunis. Israel said that Saturday's airstrike targeted Hamas military chief Mohammed Deif and killed the senior Hamas commander Rafa Salama. The airstrike sparked protests across the West Bank and drew condemnation from Jordan and Egypt. Rwanda's general election begins on Monday, with the country's incumbent president Paul Kagame widely expected to win a 4th term. 66-year-old Kagame, who has served as Rwanda's president since 2000, faces only 2 political rivals, both with weak campaigns and little support. 6 other potential candidates were not cleared to run by the state-run Electoral Commission. Kagame won nearly 99% of the vote in the country's last election in 2017. A 2015 referendum lifted term limitations for presidents, technically allowing Kagame to remain in power until 2034. It also shortened presidential terms from 7 to 5 years. While Kagame's regime has been criticized by rights groups as autocratic for muzzling the media, stifling political opponents, and backing rebel groups in neighboring Congo, Kagame enjoys popular support at home.
Good morning. The new week is starting off on a rainy note on Jeju, with a monsoonal front dropping showers on the island, which should spread to Jeollado and Gyeongsang-Namdo provinces. Jeju could see 30 to 80 millimeters of rain today. The south coast will also receive heavy showers, with 20 to 30 millimeters of downpours an hour expected. Meanwhile, inland regions will see passing rain with 5 to 60 millimeters in the forecast. So the moisture in the air will be combined with that heat, bringing feels-like temperatures a couple of degrees higher this afternoon. And it's chobok today, the onset of a searing heat wave, with a heat advisory in place for the capital area, Chungcheongdo and Sejong City. Seoul gets up to 31 degrees. Daejeon and Chuncheon should see a high of 30 degrees Celsius this afternoon. Now, monsoon rain looks to spread to more regions tomorrow. In central regions, we'll see heavier monsoon rain this week. Jeju, however, will see fewer showers, but will be hotter this week. With that in mind, let's take a look at the international weather conditions.
We thank you for watching New Day at Arirang. Arirang News will be back at noon Korea time. Until then, goodbye.